Nathan Westbrook adjusted his designer watch and scanned the grand ballroom of the Crystal Heights Hotel. Everything had to be perfect for tonight's engagement celebration. As the founder of Westbrook Properties, he had built an empire worth billions, and now he was about to marry Victoria Ashford, the perfect woman on paper. Beautiful, connected, and from the right family. Yet something felt hollow inside him. "Nathan, darling, you look distracted," Victoria said, touching his arm with her perfectly manicured hand. Her diamond bracelet caught the chandelier light as she smiled at their guests. Politicians, business moguls, and celebrities filled the room, all celebrating their union. "Just making sure everything runs smoothly," Nathan replied, forcing a smile. He had learned long ago to hide his true feelings. Behind a mask of confidence, the event coordinator approached them nervously. "Mr. Westbrook, the head chef would like to review the final menu presentation with you. Just a formality, but she insists on perfection for such an important evening." Nathan nodded and followed the coordinator toward the kitchen area. As he pushed through the service doors, the organized chaos of professional cooking surrounded him. Chefs moved with precision, calling out orders and plating dishes. Then he saw her. Grace Sullivan stood at the central station, directing her team with calm authority. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her white chef's coat pristine. For a moment, time stopped. 14 years vanished in an instant, and Nathan was 25 again, completely in love with the culinary student who had stolen his heart. "Mr. Westbrook," Grace said, her voice steady despite the slight tremor he detected. "Thank you for allowing my team to cater your celebration. I wanted to personally ensure everything meets your standards." Their eyes met, and Nathan saw everything she was not saying. The pain, the years, the questions that hung between them like ghosts. "Chef Sullivan," he managed, noting how she used her maiden name. "Your reputation speaks for itself. I have complete confidence in your work." The children who looked too familiar. 3 young people worked alongside Grace, moving with the practiced ease of those accustomed to kitchen work. Nathan's attention fixed on a teenage boy arranging garnishes with focused concentration. The boy had sandy brown hair and striking blue eyes that seemed eerily familiar. When he looked up and smiled at something his sister said, Nathan felt his heart skip. "These are my assistants," Grace said, and Nathan heard the protective tone in her voice. "Oliver and Sophie, my twins, they are 13, and Lucas, who is 9. Children, this is Mr. Westbrook, tonight's host." Oliver stepped forward confidently, extending his hand. "It's an honor, Mr. Westbrook. My mom told us about your company. I have been studying real estate development in my economics class." The handshake was firm, mature beyond the boy's years. Nathan stared at Oliver's face, seeing his own features reflected back at him. The same strong jawline, the same way of tilting his head when thinking, even the same small scar above the right eyebrow from a childhood accident. But that was impossible. Sophie moved closer, quieter than her brother but with intelligent eyes. That reminded Nathan of Grace. "I want to study culinary arts in France someday," she said softly. "Mom has been teaching me since I was little." Lucas, the youngest, grinned widely. "I like making desserts best. Want to see the chocolate sculpture I helped with?" Before Nathan could respond, Victoria appeared in the doorway, her expression tight. "Nathan, our guests are asking for you. Surely the kitchen staff can handle things without your supervision." Grace's face became a professional mask. "Of course, Mrs. Ashford. Everything will be perfect for your special evening." "It is Ms. Ashford," Victoria corrected coldly, her eyes scanning the children with barely concealed disdain. "And I certainly hope so. My father has very high standards." The truth begins to unravel. Nathan barely remembered the rest of the evening. He smiled, accepted congratulations, and gave a speech about love and partnership that felt like lies in his mouth. His mind kept returning to the kitchen, to Oliver's face, to the way Grace had looked at him with 14 years of secrets in her eyes. Late in the evening, Nathan found himself near the kitchen entrance again. He could hear Grace on her phone speaking in Spanish to someone. "Yes, Mama, the twins are doing wonderfully. 13 years old already, can you believe it? Oliver looks more like his father every day. I know. I never thought I would see him again either. But tonight, standing in that kitchen, looking at Nathan after all these years, it brought everything back." Nathan felt the world tilt. 13 years old. The twins were 13. He did quick math in his head, counting back to when he and Grace had been together, when his father had forced them apart, threatening Grace's family and their small restaurant with financial ruin if she did not leave Nathan alone. Grace continued, unaware of Nathan listening. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after Richard Westbrook made me sign those papers. 2 weeks after Nathan told me it was over, that his family would never accept someone like me. What was I supposed to do, Mama? They threatened to destroy everything you and Papa built. I had to protect my babies even if it meant raising them alone." The phone slipped from Grace's hand as she turned and saw Nathan standing there, his face drained of color. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, 14 years of lies, pain, and missed opportunities crashed down between them. "Nathan, Grace started, but he was already backing away, his mind racing with the impossible truth. Those children were his. He had children, 13-year-old twins, and they had grown up without him, believing their father had abandoned them. And tonight, he was celebrating his engagement to another woman while his real family served dinner in the kitchen. Victoria's voice called from the ballroom, shrill and impatient. "Nathan, where are you? We need to cut the cake." But Nathan could not move. He stared at Grace, seeing not just the woman he had loved and lost, but the mother of his children, the family he never knew existed. The life he should have lived stood before him in a chef's coat, and his carefully constructed perfect future suddenly felt like a prison. "We need to talk," he whispered. Grace nodded slowly, tears glistening in her eyes. "Yes, we do." Nathan did not sleep that night. He sat in his penthouse office, staring at the city lights below, replaying every moment from the engagement party. At 6 in the morning, he was already dressed and driving through the quiet streets toward Grace's restaurant, Sullivan's Kitchen. The small establishment sat in a modest neighborhood, far from the luxury districts Nathan usually frequented. Through the large windows, he could see Grace inside, preparing dough for the morning pastries. She wore casual clothes now, jeans and a simple sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked more like the woman he had fallen in love with 14 years ago. Nathan pushed through the door without knocking. The bell chimed softly, and Grace looked up, her hands stilling in the flour. "Are they mine?" Nathan asked, his voice raw from a sleepless night. No greeting, no preamble, just the question that had burned through him all night. Grace wiped her hands slowly on her apron, then met his eyes with a mixture of defiance and exhaustion. "Does it matter now?" "You are getting married in 3 weeks. Answer the question." "Grace." She looked away, then back at him with sudden fire in her eyes. "Yes. Oliver and Sophie are your children. They turned 13 last month. I found out I was pregnant exactly 16 days after your father's lawyers came to my family's restaurant and threatened to destroy everything we had built if I did not disappear from your life." Nathan felt like someone had punched him in the chest. "You were pregnant when we broke up?" "I was 6 weeks along. I did not know yet." Grace's voice cracked but remained steady. "I thought we were going to build a life together, Nathan. You told me you loved me, that your family would eventually accept us. Then suddenly everything changed. The weight of 14 years. Nathan sank into one of the restaurant chairs, memories flooding back. His father standing in his office, papers, spread across the desk. Photographs of Grace and her family, financial records, threats disguised as warnings. My father said you took money to leave, Nathan said quietly. He said you signed papers agreeing to stay away. Grace laughed bitterly. I signed papers, yes. Papers that said if I ever contacted you or your family, they would press false charges against my father for health code violations they would create, seize our restaurant property through fabricated debt claims, and make sure my younger brothers could never get jobs in this city. What choice did I have? She moved to sit across from him, her eyes blazing with 14 years of suppressed anger. I was 23 years old, pregnant with twins, watching my culinary school dreams crumble. Your father's lawyers showed me exactly what they could do to my family. They had judges, politicians, and media contacts. We had nothing. You should have told me, Nathan whispered. How? Grace spread her hands. Your security team made sure I could never get near you. I tried once, 3 months pregnant, standing outside your office building in the rain for 6 hours. Your head of security recognized me and called your father. The next day, my father's restaurant failed a surprise health inspection. 20 violations appeared overnight. It took us months to reopen and cost everything we had saved. Nathan felt sick. His entire life had been built on lies. While he was closing business deals and building his empire, Grace had been fighting to survive, raising their children alone. Tell me about them, he said finally. Tell me about Oliver and Sophie, the children. He never knew. Grace's expression softened despite her anger. Oliver is brilliant, just like you were. He taught himself programming at age 9. He built an inventory system for the restaurant when he was 11 because he noticed I was struggling to track supplies. He wants to study business and technology, dreams of creating his own company someday. Nathan felt tears prick his eyes as Grace continued. Sophie is quieter, but just as determined. She has my love for cooking, but her own creative vision. She experiments with fusion cuisines, combining techniques from different cultures. Last year, she won a youth culinary competition with a dish she created herself. She wants to study in Paris at Le Cordon Bleu. And Lucas? Nathan asked, remembering, the smaller boy with the infectious smile. Lucas is not biologically mine, Grace explained. His parents were my closest friends. They died in a car accident 3 years ago. Lucas had no other family, so I adopted him. He is as much my son as the twins are. Family is not always about blood, Nathan. It is about who shows up, who stays, who loves unconditionally. The reproach in her words cut deep. Before Nathan could respond, the restaurant door opened. Victoria stood in the entrance, designer sunglasses hiding her eyes, her expression cold. When money cannot buy silence. So this is where you ran off to? Victoria said, removing her sunglasses slowly. She surveyed the modest restaurant with barely concealed contempt. How quaint. Nathan stood. Victoria, what are you doing here? Following my fiancé, apparently. She walked further inside, her heels clicking on the tile floor. I had you followed last night, Nathan. I know about your little emotional moment in the kitchen. And now I find you here at dawn, having intimate conversations with the help. Grace stood as well, her chin raised. I think you should leave. Victoria laughed. Oh, I do not think so. We have things to discuss. Business matters. She turned to Grace. How much? Excuse me? How much money do you want to disappear? To take your children and leave this city? Name your price. The silence that followed was deadly. Nathan started to speak, but Grace held up her hand, her eyes never leaving Victoria's. Face, Miss Ashford, Grace said quietly. You can have all the money in the world. You can have your parties and your social status and your perfect wedding. But some things cannot be bought. Dignity, for instance. Self-respect. The love of children who know their mother worked 3 jobs to feed them, who watched me study, For my chef certification at midnight after they went to bed? Who helped me build this restaurant from nothing? She walked slowly toward Victoria until they were face to face. So take your money and your threats and get out of my restaurant. Because unlike you, I earned everything I have. Every dish I serve, every satisfied customer, every smile on my children's faces. I did not need to marry into it or manipulate my way to it. Victoria's face flushed with anger. You have no idea who you are dealing with. My family has connections throughout this city. One phone call, and I can have health inspectors here within an hour. Child Protective Services investigating your fitness as a parent. Your precious restaurant closed permanently. Try it, Grace said calmly. I have 14 years of perfect records, of community involvement, of satisfied customers and glowing reviews. What do you have? A title you were born with and a marriage you are buying. Nathan watched in amazement as Grace stood her ground. This was not the frightened young woman his father had intimidated years ago. This was a woman who had survived, who had built a life through sheer determination. Victoria turned to Nathan, her voice icy. If you walk away from our engagement, I will destroy her. And those children. I will make sure Oliver and Sophie know exactly how their father abandoned them, how he chose money and status over them, how he is doing it again by marrying me. No, Nathan said firmly, you will not. Over the next 2 weeks, Nathan became a regular presence at Sullivan's kitchen. He arrived each afternoon when the children finished school, staying until closing time. At first, Oliver, Sophie, and Lucas were cautious around him, but gradually, they began to open up. Oliver showed Nathan his latest app project, eyes shining with excitement as he explained the code. I want to create something that helps small businesses like Mom's Restaurant, something that makes their lives easier. Nathan listened, asking questions, offering suggestions from his business experience. He saw himself in Oliver's enthusiasm, in the way the boy's mind worked through problems logically and creatively. Sophie was more reserved. She watched Nathan carefully, as if trying to understand why this wealthy stranger kept coming around. But one evening, when Nathan asked about her culinary aspirations, she began to share her dreams. Paris is where the best chefs train, she explained, decorating a practice cake with delicate sugar flowers. But it is expensive. Mom says we will find a way, but I see her worry about money sometimes. I have been saving birthday money since I was 8. Nathan felt his heart break at the thought of his daughter hoarding small amounts of money for years, dreaming of opportunities that should have been easily within reach if he had been in her life. Lucas, meanwhile, had attached himself to Nathan with the uncomplicated affection of a 9-year-old. Do you have kids? He asked one day while they washed dishes together. I do, Nathan answered carefully, looking at Grace for permission. She gave a small nod. I have 3 children. I just found out about them recently, but I love them very much. Lucky them, Lucas said innocently. Everyone should have a dad who wants to be around. The simple statement hit Nathan like a hammer. That night, as he helped Grace close the restaurant, he finally asked the question that had been haunting him. What did you tell them about me? About their father? Grace was quiet for a long moment, stacking chairs on tables. I told them their father died in an accident before they were born, that he never knew about them. I thought it was kinder than the truth. What truth? That their father chose his wealth and his family name over them, that he let himself be controlled by fear of disappointing people who valued money more than love. She looked at him directly. I gave you the easier story, Nathan. I made you a tragedy instead of a choice. Nathan felt the weight of those words. I am sorry. For everything. For not fighting harder, for not finding you, for missing 13 years of their lives. Sorry does not change the past, Grace said, but her voice was softer now. The question is, what are you going to do about the future? You are getting married in 10 days to a woman who despises me and everything I represent. What happens to Oliver and Sophie then? Do you disappear again? Do you become the weekend father who shows up with expensive gifts but misses the real moments? I do not know, Nathan admitted. But I know I cannot marry Victoria. I cannot live that lie anymore. Grace turned to look at him, really look at him, for the first time since that night in the kitchen. Then what are you going to do? Before Nathan could answer, his phone rang. It was James Porter, his business partner and best friend. Nathan, we need to talk. Now. It is about the merger documents you signed last month. There is a problem. Nathan's stomach dropped. He had been so focused on Grace and the children that he had not been paying attention to business matters. That was about to become a costly mistake. Nathan arrived at his office at midnight, his mind racing after James's urgent call. His business partner sat at the conference table, surrounded by documents, his expression grave. "What is going on?" Nathan demanded. James looked up, and Nathan saw something in his eyes he had never noticed before. Guilt mixed with calculation. The merger documents you signed last month, the ones transferring 40% of Westbrook properties into a joint venture. Do you remember reviewing them? Nathan felt ice in his veins. I remember you bringing me papers to sign during the engagement planning. You said they were routine partnership renewals. They were not. James spread the documents across the table. These transferred significant control of your company to a new entity, an entity controlled by Victoria's family and me. Nathan grabbed the papers, scanning them frantically. His signature was there, witnessed and notarized, but he had never read these specific terms. You forged these. Not forged. You signed them. You just did not read them carefully. James leaned back in his chair. You were distracted, Nathan. Focused on wedding plans and family obligations, it made things easier. Easier for what? For taking what should have been mine from the beginning. James's friendly mask slipped, revealing bitterness beneath. I have worked alongside you for 10 years. Building your empire, making you richer while I stayed in your shadow. Victoria and I decided it was time for a more equal partnership. Nathan's mind worked quickly, piecing together the puzzle. You and Victoria, how long? Does it matter? Long enough to plan this carefully. James stood, straightening his jacket. Here is what happens next. You marry Victoria as scheduled. You continue running the company under our supervision, and you forget about that chef and those children. Or we destroy everything. The evidence that changes everything. Nathan left his office building, his hands shaking with rage. But as he sat in his car, something shifted inside him. Fear transformed into clarity. He thought about Grace, working 3 jobs to support their children. About Oliver's determination and Sophie's quiet strength. About Lucas's innocent trust in family. They had survived threats before. They had built something real from nothing. And now it was Nathan's turn to fight. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Robert, it is Nathan Westbrook. I need your firm's help. Tonight. Robert Chen was the best litigation attorney in the city, known for taking on powerful families and winning. Nathan had used his services for business deals before, but never imagined he would need them for this. Over the next week, Nathan played along. He smiled at Victoria, attended wedding planning meetings, and acted like nothing had changed. But secretly, he was building his case. Robert's team discovered that James had been embezzling funds for 2 years, hiding it in the merger paperwork. They found evidence of Victoria's involvement, including emails discussing their plan to control Nathan's wealth. Most damning of all, they found records of Victoria faking a pregnancy, complete with purchased ultrasound images and falsified medical documents. She had planned to claim Nathan abandoned her while pregnant, ruining his reputation if he tried to leave. Nathan also did something else. He reached out to his father, a father's awakening, Richard Westbrook sat in his study, the same room where he had threatened Grace 14 years earlier. Now his son stood before him, older and harder than the young man he had controlled so easily. "I have something to tell you," Nathan said, "and I need you to listen without interrupting." He told his father everything, about Grace, about the twins, about the threats that had kept them apart, about Victoria and James's betrayal. Richard's face remained impassive until Nathan finished. "You have children," Richard said finally. "Grandchildren I never knew about. Because you made sure I never knew about them. You destroyed my life and theirs because you thought Grace was not good enough for our family name." Richard was quiet for a long moment. "I thought I was protecting you, protecting our legacy." "You were protecting your pride," Nathan said coldly. "And in the process, you cost me 14 years with my children. Years I can never get back." "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. I am telling you this because in 3 days, I am going to publicly end my engagement to Victoria and expose what she and James have done. The scandal will be enormous. The Westbrook name will be dragged through every media outlet. I wanted you to hear it from me first." Richard stood slowly, walking to the window overlooking his manicured gardens. "And after? What happens after? I'm going to be a father to my children. I am going to help Grace expand her restaurant into everything she dreamed it could be. And I am going to rebuild my company without partners who betray me. The business world will talk. They will say you were trapped by some woman from 14 years ago. Let them talk," Nathan said. "I spent my whole life caring what people thought." "What you thought? I am done with that. My children are real. Grace is real. Everything else is just noise." Richard turned from the window, and Nathan saw something unexpected in his father's eyes. Regret. "I would like to meet them," Richard said quietly. "My grandchildren, if you will allow it." The day everything changed. The engagement party at the Ashford estate was supposed to be the final celebration before the wedding. 300 guests filled the gardens, champagne flowed, and Victoria glowed in her designer gown. She thought she had won. Nathan took the microphone during the toast, his lawyer standing nearby with documents ready. "Thank you all for coming," Nathan began, his voice carrying across the gathering. "I asked you here today because I have an important announcement. But first, I need to tell you all a story." He told them about Grace, about falling in love 14 years ago, about his father's threats and the separation he had thought was necessary, about discovering 3 weeks ago that he had children he never knew existed. The crowd murmured, shocked. Victoria's face went white. "I also need to tell you about betrayal," Nathan continued, his voice hardening. "About business partners who forge documents and steal companies, about fiancés who fake pregnancies and plan to destroy innocent people." He nodded to Robert, who began distributing folders to key guests. Journalists, business associates, board members. Each folder contained evidence of Victoria and James's fraud. "The wedding is canceled," Nathan said simply, "and charges have been filed against Victoria Ashford and James Porter for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." Chaos erupted. Victoria screamed accusations. James tried to leave but found security guards blocking the exits. Cameras flashed as reporters scrambled for the story. Nathan walked away from it all. He had one place he needed to be. Coming home, Sullivan's kitchen was closed for the evening, but lights glowed from inside. Nathan pushed through the door to find Grace, Oliver, Sophie, and Lucas sitting together at a table, playing cards and laughing. They all looked up as he entered. The children's smiles faded to confusion. Grace stood slowly, seeing something in Nathan's expression. "I ended it," Nathan said simply. "The engagement, the fake partnership, all of it. I chose you. I chose them. I chose us." Oliver stood, his young face serious. "You chose us?" But you are a millionaire. You have this whole other life. That life was empty, Nathan said, moving closer. You want to know what real wealth is? It is coming home to people who actually care about you. It is watching your daughter create something beautiful. It is helping your son with his dreams. It is being part of something that matters. He knelt down, so he was eye level with the children. I know I was not there for the first 13 years of your lives. I cannot change that, and I am sorry, but if you will let me, I want to be here for everything that comes next. Every birthday, every achievement, every hard day, every celebration. I want to be your father, if you will have me. Sophie spoke first, her voice quiet but steady. Mom told us the truth last week, about who you really are, about what happened. Oliver nodded. We have been talking about it, about whether we wanted to know you. Nathan felt his heart hammering. He had faced down corporate rivals and hostile takeovers, but nothing terrified him like the possibility of his children rejecting him. Lucas came forward first, his 9-year-old wisdom cutting through the tension. Mom says family is about showing up and staying. Can you do that? Yes, Nathan promised. I can do that. Then okay, Lucas said, and hugged Nathan around the waist. Sophie came next, then Oliver, more hesitant but willing to try. Grace watched, tears streaming down her face as Nathan held their children for the first time as their acknowledged father. Building a new future. 6 months later, Sullivan's Kitchen had become Sullivan's Kitchens, plural, with Nathan's business. Expertise and financial backing, combined with Grace's culinary vision, they had opened 3 more locations across the city. Each restaurant trained young chefs from underprivileged backgrounds, giving them opportunities Grace had nearly lost. Oliver spent weekends at Nathan's office, learning the business firsthand and developing apps to help small restaurants manage their operations. Sophie had been accepted to a prestigious culinary program in Paris, with full financial support and plans to open her own restaurant when she returned. Lucas had adjusted beautifully to having a father figure, and Nathan never missed one of his soccer games. Richard Westbrook, to everyone's surprise, had become a devoted grandfather. He showed up weekly for family dinners, teaching Oliver about investments while arguing good-naturedly with Sophie about recipe modifications. He even apologized to Grace, though no words could truly make up for the lost years. On a warm Sunday evening, the extended family gathered at the original Sullivan's Kitchen for dinner. Nathan and Grace stood in the kitchen together, preparing food side by side like they had dreamed of doing 14 years ago. Did you ever imagine this? Grace asked, chopping vegetables while Nathan prepared the sauce. Us, here, together with our family? Every day for 14 years, Nathan admitted. I just did not think it could really happen. And now? He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. Now I know that real wealth is not measured in bank accounts. It is measured in moments like this. From the dining room, they heard Oliver explaining his latest business idea to Richard, while Sophie and Lucas argued about whether chocolate belonged in savory dishes. Their family, imperfect and patched together, but real and full of love. Speaking of moments, Nathan said, reaching into his pocket, I have been waiting for the right time. He pulled out a simple ring, nothing like the ostentatious diamond he had given Victoria. This one had 3 small stones, one for each child, surrounding a center diamond. Grace Sullivan, will you marry me? For real this time, not because our families arranged it or because it makes business sense, but because I love you, because I love our family, because I want to spend every day for the rest of my life showing up and staying. Grace looked at the ring, then at Nathan, then toward the dining room where their children's laughter rang out. Yes, she said, smiling through happy tears. 1,000 times yes. They returned to the dining room together, and when they announced the engagement, the room erupted in cheers. Oliver pulled out his phone to document the moment, Sophie immediately started planning the menu. Lucas wanted to know if he could be the ring bearer. Richard Westbrook raised his glass. "To family," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "The one we choose and the one we find, and to second chances." "To second chances," everyone echoed. Nathan looked around the table at his family, the real treasure he had almost lost forever. Outside, the city lights sparkled, but inside Sullivan's kitchen, surrounded by the people he loved most, Nathan Westbrook had finally found his way home. The wedding would be small and perfect, held in the restaurant where their second chance had begun. And this time, Grace would not be in the kitchen watching from the shadows. She would be standing beside Nathan where she had always belonged, building a future together. Their story had started with heartbreak and separation, but it ended with hope, healing, and the understanding that true love can survive anything when given a second chance. The end.